How's it going, everyone? Hope you're good. Let me see here. I should probably turn the music down a little. Maybe somewhere around there. You guys are going to need to tell me. Sounds okay. Final stream before the holiday. We have a great model. This is a brand new set that came out from Grafit Studio, and I just the model's proportions are awesome. I think she's going to be a lot of fun to draw. I think there's an opportunity to kind of, as soon as I saw her, I'm like, okay, there's an opportunity almost to kind of get into caricature here. So that's what I'm going to hopefully try and do, is push a little bit shape language and that type of thing, right? So that's kind of like the idea. So yeah, I'd say we get cracking. Now we've got 6 poses. I'm thinking we start around 20 minutes, right? Give or take. And then we may speed up towards the end. We may do a couple of 5s or something like that. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. Hope everyone's doing good. It is so gloomy here in England. But part of me thinks it's kind of nice. You know, gives you an excuse just to stay inside and not worry about all that's going on in the world. Okay. Let me set the timer. Richard, the link I sent you last week is the exact same. Go to that same link and you'll see it's at the top of the page. You just need to go to that same link. If you don't have that link, either track down last week's email or email me and I'll send you the link again. Okay, let's draw. I am tempted here to, I'm not going to necessarily be trying to focus on getting down the whole form. I really want to kind of focus on the things that I find interesting with these poses. Finding it's an interesting pose because she's like, that's very subtle, very nice twist in the torso, but it is subtle. So we're looking front on, and her rib cage is kind of the axis is here, and then as we get down to the pelvis, it's a little bit more straight on, and then this leg is kind of pushing forwards, right? But I really want to get the sense of that kind of rhythm of this leg coming towards us a little bit, something like that, right? So we'll just very, very loosely suggest that now. And then this other leg is actually kind of going away from us very, very subtly. It's kind of like with the axis in this direction. Coming around the form, thinking about the volume and the mass. We know the navel is going to be about here. Rib cage is sitting about here. So we're subdividing already. Very, very likely. Top poses, the top page of the page, Richard, first pose. All right. Find a cutout for the neck, manubrium, get to the neck there, clavicles coming up this way, and then she's kind of pointing out in this direction. This other arm is going behind the form, and then we can just see the forearm coming out this way. It's actually holding a stick here, something like that. Something like that. Alright, so let's find Aces coming down out here, Iliac crest coming off. The upper torso down into the lower Aces, sitting about here, inguinal ligament coming down this way. Right. Arch of the rib cage is going to be sitting about here. Right, so clavicle's coming up this way. On this side, that's like this. Always think about the distance between the clavicle and kind of where the pectoral for the pit of the neck is. Or sorry, for the armpit, right here. This distance between here and here. People have a tendency to draw it too narrow. Let's just be mindful of that. And then off that, obviously, then we have coming down this way, the mass of the breast, sitting in here, something like that. Coming off this side, same thing, pectoral muscle is going to be here. Like so. Sternocleidomastoid muscle coming up, hitting behind the ear here, something like that. And then the trapezius coming down this way. This always, we've talked about it so many times, but look at the way that that line, like, you know, if you imagine something like that, right? Like this muscle just kind of continuing this rhythmical idea down the form, right? So much more so than just like, you know, putting this cylinder for the neck. You're looking for opportunities for a ribbon. Okay, so we've got the iliac crest. We can see that's the peak of it there. You know the sartorius is coming down this way. Same thing on this side, actually. But the sartorius is attached at the aces there, coming down this way. Something like that. Coming up here, tricep. Somewhere about there. Pixel art. JJ asks, hey, Pixel art, do you draw a lot off stream? I go through periods where I draw a lot off stream, and then I go through periods where I don't draw from one stream to the next off stream. Just primarily because of just, you know, my routine these last couple of years has been kind of thrown all over the place. So things like, you know, predictable practice and that is tricky. But, you know, I spent a large portion of the last 30 years drawing all day, every day for a living for other people. So, yeah, in that respect, I could say, yeah, I draw further off stream. But these days, it kind of just depends on the week, the month. I have a lot of other things that distract me. trying to give equal time to everything, as you can imagine, is really difficult. So you end up just in a balancing act, juggling act. And when I'm practicing drawing, I feel like I should be practicing other things. And when I'm doing those things, I feel like I should be practicing drawing. This is the way it's always been. Should I practice more? Yeah, probably. I like being in practice. You know, whether it's music or drawing, art, when you're in daily practice, or even like, you know, let's say every other day practice, but something that you get to regularly a few times a week, especially if you develop some level of facility in that thing, it's so nice. It's such a nice feeling. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling knowing when you're out of practice, and that you know that you could be performing better had you only just done a little bit of practice. I had, you see, I came to music very late, relatively speaking. I didn't really study music as a child. I started studying as a kind of like a late teenager. Anyway, the point of the story is this. Quite early on in my musical career, let's say, I was asked to do a performance just in front of a small group of people, and this was, you know, it was kind of like a small group of very learned people, let's say. And I haven't been playing too long, but I agreed to, you know, I was quite happy to get the idea of performing in front of these people, and this is what you're meant to do, right? But I was woefully unprepared, and because I hadn't been at it very long, I don't think I realized how unprepared I was. And I'd practiced all these things, but I'd never practiced them just purely in sequence, like just one after the other, in a performance kind of like environment. I'd only practiced them kind of individually and never really with the correct hookups and that type of thing. Anyway, I ended up absolutely falling on my ass during that performance, and it was one of the most painful experiences of my life. I absolutely ate it for about 15 minutes on that stage, which was just a wildly humiliating experience for me at the time. But it taught me an incredibly important lesson, which I've taken through the rest of my life, honestly. And that is that you have to show up prepared, right? Now that's kind of might sound like you're stating the obvious, but the amount of people that wing it on things is just astonishing. And after that experience, I vowed to never put myself in that situation again. I still cringe when I think about that experience. So what's the point of that whole story? Just to reiterate, is between art and music, I've spent a large portion of my life in a state of practice, and a lot to do with that experience and that time. Was it a paid music performance? No, it wasn't paid. It was just a group of people that were into that music. You know, imagine kind of like, it's North Indian classical music, but imagine kind of like a classical conservatory type of audience, right? Something like that. So they really know what they're watching. Even though they're a very sympathetic crowd, they realize that you're a student and blah blah blah. But everyone else felt just so much more prepared than I was. I just ate it. I ate it so hard, and it was just an awful, awful experience. But as I said, I think I learned a huge lesson that day. So I guess on some level, I'm indebted to that awful moment in time. So there you go. So I'm just really just looking for core shadows here. I'm not going to be drawing out everything. I'm kind of, as I said, I want to focus on certain things here. So going in and just finding, just where some of the divisions between light and tone is. So there you go. It really helps if you like the process of practice and practicing it and kind of get into the spirit of it. A lot of people look at practice as, nothing but homework or just something that they have to endure. It's a shame. You can find a way to go zen with it. You can really, you have a good time with it. So we've got, form turning in space, but we've also got cast shadow we need to be thinking about too, obviously on this side. Something like that. Where are we at time-wise? 16 minutes, all right. Yeah, as I said, I think we'll go probably to about 20 on this. Those of you who are drawing along. All right, let's just gently get some tone into here, fill out some of this tone. Going in pretty much with a single tone for everything at this point, not really hitting any darks or lights. Let's just do a little bit of blending, see where we're at. What's the difference in your mindset when you sit down to practice versus creating? Great question. Hey Rick, you were day drinking. Well, you have a legitimate reason of why you weren't here. What is the difference in your mindset? You sit down to practice versus creating. Oftentimes the act of practice will turn into the act of creating, or just by virtue of what you're doing, the two kind of are synonymous with each other. Some of that, the way that you would answer that question would depend on, you know, am I drawing for a client, or if I'm drawing for myself? And I think that those are two, that they tend to be kind of two different, even though there's a lot of, you know, crossover, that those two things are quite different process in some ways. But if I'm just creating for myself, I think that, you know, it's a really good question, because I think that I tend to not do, I try to tend to not do one without the other. I'll give that more thought. I like the question. All right, let's see here. Where are we at? I think we'll just hit a little bit darker darks here and there. A couple more minutes. Let's see. One thing I would say is when I'm drawing just for myself, I make quite a, I try to make a conscious effort, at least, to just try and be in the process, rather than in the try and be in the moment rather than worry about the end result or trying to create something in particular. I find that far more interesting than sitting down and saying, "Oh, I need to have this at the end of the you know, process." All right, I think that's going to do us for this one. Thank you, Carla. Nice to have you along. When you're creating, you're more open to experiment. You know, sometimes I will sit down just very specifically with an idea of I want to try something, right? But I'd probably put that more under the practice kind of category, let's say. It's weird because, all right, sorry, let's just move on to the next pose and then we'll continue chatting. All right. Whitney, how you doing? Good to see you. What was I going to say? All right, next pose. So now we've got a back crouching pose for those of you who are following along. This should be a bit of fun. Here's the thing, you know, I think about this stuff quite a lot actually, which is there are people that will do something like, let's say, practice figure drawing, to develop a skill of figure drawing. The kind of to bring it somewhere, right? And I've talked often about, let me just reset the clock. Talked often about the fact that I think that figurative drawing is a great place for us to practice a whole series of skill sets that we can then take to other art, to other disciplines in art. And what that could be any number of things, right? Like you might be doing figurative art just because you simply want to be better for your fashion drawing, let's say, drawing your mannequins. It could be any number of things. Or you want to work in game design and you just want to be able to, or character design, you want to be able to draw characters, you know, that have some anatomical kind of correctness to them. So, and then, as you know, obviously any number of things. And obviously for me, a lot of my reasoning and motivation in the beginning was to develop and help strengthen my skill set for my working in animation, right? Especially when I was working in animation, the ability to be able to draw, and then the ability to be able to draw the human form was quite important, especially back in the day. Maybe less so now, unfortunately. So that was kind of like my motivation, right? But I'm at a point now where I don't know, I don't even care if there's a drawing at the end of the process, honestly. I'm much more interested in the process. And that's very, very freeing. I'm much more concerned on having even if the drawing ends up being trash, if I feel like I learned something or there was some value to the whole process, then I'm good. That's enough for me. But you know, most people. So I guess my point is, sorry, I'm rambling because I'm trying to draw and I'm trying to think of my thoughts at the same time. But my point is this: is not to say never, it will never happen or whatever, but I'm not looking to do this so that my oil painting is better, for example. I'm not looking to bring this anywhere, if that makes sense. Like if that happens, then that's fine, but I'm quite happy for the process to happen. Sorry, I'm rambling in the worst way today. Overall kind of ideas, not crazy about this. Hopefully as we tighten up it will make more sense. Thomas, how you doing, man? Hope you're well. When in the new year do you think you'll start streaming again? November and December have been awful months for drawing for me. So busy with assignments. Sure, I get it. So here's what I'm tentatively thinking. Look at the calendar really quickly. I think it's the Monday or Tuesday, the 6th. Right? It's the Tuesday is Oh, really? Sorry, my calendar is. Let's have a quick look. Where are we? Yep, January the 6th. Tuesday, January the 6th. I would plan on being back. That's the tentative plan at this point in time. And we got, hopefully in the new year, I know I've said it before, but I'm really hoping in the new year we've got some fun, mix it up a little, maybe do some other stuff, and you know, let's see. But here's the thing, I will be around in January. I'm thinking I'll probably be around for about I'm hoping 2 or 3 streams. And then I have to go and have this crazy surgery thing. And that's going to have me out of action probably for a month to 6 weeks, would be my guess. I think I'm going to be in hospital for about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks apparently after the surgery. So yeah, so that, but I don't have that date yet. Apparently those conversations will start in the new year. And so I should have those in the new year. But as I said, and I think that surgery will be at the end of January. But point being is, until then, we can probably get in a few streams in January before we're off to do that. Might end up even just doing some impromptu kind of unscheduled or, you know, quick schedule sessions too. Maybe, you know, quick gesture sessions and stuff like that. We'll try and not leave you without anything to work while I'm gone. So yeah, that's the plan. Much cruise through my photo shoots without much effort. Sketchy. Skills my mental muscles. I'd say a lot of that stuff, imagine at this point you are able to do on auto, right, Rick? Which is a nice thing. Ingrid, welcome. Yeah, so she's got her hair kind of in a bundle here, doesn't she? I very conveniently not really addressed the hair. Which I will. Something like that. Occipital ridge in there. This is all kind of in the dark, very conveniently. So we will lean into that fact, and we will keep this very much in a silhouette type pass. Finding a channel last year, tried sketching, but I don't enjoy realistic anatomy. Definitely that. cartoon comic drawing again, however. Fair enough. Yeah, look. That's a completely fair, you know, assessment. I guess some of that stuff stays with you, and you bring it to that other work. I would imagine some of it might be useful, but yeah, fair enough. All right, so I'm just going to just very gently shadow map here. A stretch on the back of her right foot is worth a study, says Rick. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I'm not, well, we'll give it a little go. But, yes. Well, it's always the case with these drawings, isn't it? It's like you could zoom in on any one element and make it the entire focus, you know? Yeah, how are we going to treat this foot? It's very, very, you know, it's a very strange angle. Almost don't want to put too much emphasis on it, because it's going to just attract the wrong type of attention. Throw that as much as I can into the light. I'm going to try something I wouldn't normally do in the spirit of experimenting. I'm just going to work with some charcoal powder, because there's a lot of this that's in tone. I think it might just be a nice little to switch gears. Oh, let me just grab my charcoal. Alright, so what I've got here is basically the powder from when I sharpen these pencils. I'm actually going to just use this brush just to get a bit of turn onto the drawing. Yeah, you made the drawing poses look really easy and fun. Immediately realised it was indeed not easy at all. Yes, man. Yes, practice. Now, this obviously has the potential to make everything hugely messy, but we're just having a bit of fun here. Certainly don't need too much of this. Richard just trying to process this as an extensive surgery, question mark. Yeah, Whitney, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's. I think the doctor called it either significant or profound, which didn't exactly make me feel too great. But this is where we're at. What we're doing. There is no choice. Life-changing. All right. So once again, as we do when we're working with the pencil, we're really going for, single tone here. We're not really going to do anything more than that at this point. Let's move on. That's enough of that. Just pushing a little bit more some of these foreshadows. So we start to get a sense more of the light on both sides, really. You just want to be careful not to overcook these things. I'm always super conscious that I'm overdoing it. Why don't you draw the feet? No offense, none taken. Simply because the angle they're at is really awkward. And as I was saying earlier in the stream, they just, unless I spent like a bunch of time like trying to make them perfect, they're just going to attract a lot of attention if they're drawn badly or quickly. So I might tie them down a tiny bit more, but like they're fine. And we'll hit them with the eraser and we'll pull out some lights. So we're not done yet. Alright. I think that's enough powder, at least for now. Let's just get in and re-establish some of these shapes. Alright. Now, very important, keep a damp rag close by. Thank you for your answer. I hope one day to come to your school and study. I hope one day to have a school that you can study at. I used to. I used to have well, I wouldn't say a school. I used to have a room in Covent Garden in London where I would give classes. But mainly do the online thing these days. Alright, so we're going in with the kneaded eraser now. We're going to hit our lights. Hopefully this stuff shows up on camera. I'm never quite sure how much of it, how effective it is, but this is where, in my opinion, kneaded erasers really come into their own. They give they manage to bring a painterly look that frankly you just have a hard time achieving with anything else. Alright. So the heel of this foot has some light hitting it. I'll just tap that. Nice thing with the kneaded eraser is you can continually just reshape the tip that you're working with, and you know. Okay, I think we're getting close. Okay. I think that'll do it. Bit of fun, something a bit different than what we normally do. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, less is more, I agree with me. Cool, okay. Pose number 3, let's have a look. Ooh, things are getting tricky. All right, this is technically, in my opinion, this is probably the hardest pose, at least in some ways. Well, that was 25 minutes. That's respectable, right? For what we did. Cheers, Rick. Cheers, everybody. Hope you're doing good. Okay. Excuse me. So this next pose, once again, really quite complex. And while it may lend itself to that kind of painterly look thing that we were just doing, I'm more inclined, for at least for this drawing, to be thinking in a diagrammatical sense. Because there's a lot of structure that we need to get right. I'm also just debating whether I need to go to the landscape, but I think I'll make it fit here. So, upper torso, which is going away from us, right? Upper and lower torso are essentially going away from us. Warren says, since finishing high school in arts, almost 30 of them, self-teaching anatomy, composition, painting, film, and animation. I'm unsure how to start an animation film game industry. Yeah, that's a loaded question. And I'm not sure I have a meaningful answer for you, because I don't know the current state. Well, I know that the animation industry, at least in stateside, has been hurting. I'm not sure about game and that, or where they're at right now. So I can already tell that my proportions are off here. This is not as high. I think her clavicle is going to end up being about here. This one's pushed up more. She's got that hyperextension on her elbow. We see it almost every session, because all of our female models are double jointed. So we get what looks like a break on the elbow there as she leans the weight obviously of her rib cage and her upper torso, her head and all of that onto this elbow. This elbow ends up acting almost like a pivot point. Something like that. You see just like the mass of the breast is sitting quite low here, kind of just above the elbow here, which kind of is one of the clues that told me that my initial line here was too high. So pectoral muscle is going to be sitting about here. Something like that. Do you have a first portfolio? Oh, you're asking. Yeah, that's first step is a good portfolio. Well, it's certainly the first step to understanding on where you're at, you know, and knowing what you're going to need, you know, to have to be an active member of a community like ArtStation is probably not a terrible idea as well. You need to, yeah, you really need to kind of just be in that world as much as you can. This arm is coming forward like so. Wrist is sitting about here. This leg coming towards us. Okay. I'll reset the clock. Oh. Yeah, Whitney, it's good advice, all of that. Well, I also think that, you know, one of the first things you need to understand or really kind of get your head around is you need to decide what it is in the industry that it is that you want to focus on. Because unless you're coming straight out of school where you can get like, you know, an entry-level apprenticeship where you can try different things, those days are kind of gone, unfortunately. Well, not completely, but to some degree. Okay, this is potentially a bit of a mess. Let's see, we'll tie it down. You know, you want to work in animation, that's, you know, visual development or as an animator, those are going to be two very, very different paths that you take as far as developing your skill set. You know, it's like, and once you know those things, let's say, for example, you say, well, I want to be a background painter, I want to be a visual development artist, background painter. Okay, great. Now that you know that, those are, you know that the communities and the people that you need to start building, you know, relationships with. Okay. Yeah, that's the problem you need to ask yourself, Corin. You need to at least try and move the needle in one direction, at least if you can. And if you're not sure what that is, then that's a different kind of journey that you need to kind of figure out. It's tough. I completely get and sympathize with your quandary. I really do. I feel like when I started working off in animation, it was a much simpler kind of path to get in. Like when I first started getting into animation, there was almost no one my age that was doing it in London. I literally was, you know, able to get in, do some work experience from high school, and before you knew it, I was offered a full-time position as a cell painter. Those of you who know what cells are. And then I was able to just pretty much from age 15, 16, I was working. You know, moved to LA when I was 17. And even in LA, there was so much work at the time. It's all changed now. You're hilarious, Doug. Animation was done on paper and celluloid. Yeah, it does sound like old school, doesn't it? Good Lord. Yep. There was a lovely charm to working in those old analog days. I can remember in 1995, I was working in a studio in LA. We were working on these Disney games of all things, like, you know, Hercules would come out, so we would make this Hercules 2D game type thing, and it was all hand drawn. And I remember back in 95, someone showed me, or even before 95, I remember, like, well, when we were very first even working or in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, the murmurs about computers were being heard around the place. But, you know, we were told things like, oh yeah, what the computer's going to do is going to replace, you know, the way that this person draws. So the computer's like, no, I don't think so. Change the whole entire process. But I remember seeing Toy Story and genuinely wondering if this was going to be something that would take off. And I love Toy Story, don't get me wrong. I think it's an amazing film. But I do remember the first time I saw it being like, maybe this will be a thing, but maybe not. Could not have been more wrong. A few years later, there was no traditional animation left. It has a little resurgence now and then, but yeah. Keep working your career will find you. There's something to be said for that, but I also, in the situation we were talking about earlier, I think that people do need to kind of have a direction, you know. Because even like, if you think about it, like even the process of like practice and developing a skill set, well, you know, not everyone wants to just practice endlessly. People want to practice with purpose and to move to something else, or to evolve a skill or whatever it might be. It's hard for some people to find long-term motivation to continue those things when they don't know. You know? Little Pure Water says, hello Richard, I'm curious, is it possible to become an artist without going to art school or college? Absolutely, 100% yes, it is possible. 100%. But if you're going to go that course, that route, you'd better be really good at asking the right questions. Right? And you've also got to be really good at knowing, even if you don't know a subject, understanding when you're in the presence of a good or a bad teacher. And that's hard sometimes. Sometimes that's hard. But yes, there is all the information you need for free online. But you're going to have to dig, and and it's going to take it's going to be a longer journey than having a dedicated teacher or school that's going to teach you through a process. Right? But in saying that, I don't think it takes 4 years to learn to draw, but there's many a drawing academy that would try and convince you otherwise, because it's in their best interest too, because obviously they get paid. So but it's 100% possible. But not everyone has the aptitude for that. Yeah, I think your name changed slightly on Doug on here. I noticed that when we came back from the long break, and I noticed that I realized it was you, but I did notice it had changed. What would you recommend? It depends what you want to study, how quickly you want to study it, what's your dedication like, what are your resources like. It's a massive question with too many potential answers. Certainly, you know, for the space that we're in here right now. I'm just trying to debate how much more I even want to spend on this drawing. I'm not really loving the drawing so much. I'll block in a little bit of tone just in the interest of you know, going through the process, but this is one for the fire. But I knew that this one was going to be more of just like a technical exercise, so I'm not really too fussed about it. Wait, you burn your bad drawings? Oh, yes, of course, all the time. I've got approximately a pile of about 1,000 drawings there from almost every stream that we've done. It's over 1,000 drawings now, probably about 1,100. About half of those will be on the burn pit. Maybe more, actually, in fairness. I think I have what I consider an acceptable rate as far as drawings I want to keep. I don't know what the exact number is, but I would be very surprised if it's more than 1 in 8, something like that. So the rest, they have to go. You can't keep those. They make excellent fire starters. Can't get precious about them. You know, occasionally you do a drawing, you're like, oh, I'm going to keep that one. That one, you know, that one's okay. But nah, generally speaking, most of them are not worth keeping. All right, try to polish a turd here. Let's move on. Draftsman podcast season 2 goes into depth about attending art school or not, and how to make your own art education if you're interested. All right, nice shout out, Atla. Thank you for that. There's pros and cons to both approaches, and everyone's different, and your needs and my needs could be very, very different as far as our approach and what we're looking for, and all of, you know, it's such a loaded thing. The one good thing about studying on your own is, other than time, it's not going to cost you anything, right? 5 and 20 for me, so you keep about a quarter of your drawings. Yeah, that number doesn't sound terrible. Doesn't sound terrible. Maybe a quarter, maybe sometimes. Okay. Next pose. Alright, what's with the Lord of the Rings music? It's enough. Okay, let's reset the clock. Was that last one really only 18 minutes? Huh? Yeah, looks like it was 18. Reset the timer and let's go. Okay, so we've got nice standing pose here. A little tricky. Once again, her upper torso, a lot of foreshortening. Spine coming down this way. Now, in this case, I am drawing the whole figure, partially because I really like, the reason I picked this pose was because of the relationship between the 2 feet. So that's kind of what I want to lean into, hopefully. Just a bit of fun. It's nothing too profound or anything. Just legs going away from us. The music, yeah, totally. Love the way that this foot is angling back this way. Look at the way, for those of you who have the reference, look at the way that we come down to on her left leg. Look at the way that the knee pushes back, calf is sitting up. You get a sense of how that calf attaches above the knee too. That it's really interesting seeing this angle like this. Elbows about here. Somewhere in here. pretty kind of perspective. Something like that. You can see we can refine as we go. I don't think it's worth spending 100k to learn how to draw for 4 years. I completely agree. Some of the ateliers are better at the fundamentals in the universities. I was speaking US based. Quite frankly, a good mentor is better if possible. I would agree with everything you're saying, Whitney. I would also, though, personally, I would raise a skeptical eyebrow before writing a check even for some of the ateliers. I saw one such case of someone who spent 4 years studying drawing in Florence, and let's just say I think they should have got a refund. I also have had several times over the last few years since I released that fundamentals video of people basically saying that my video was all but required watching before starting their term at class. So these lazy professors are basically sending them to me to actually teach them, because they don't have the courage to learn to do the thing themselves and teach it themselves. And that, while I appreciate the click, that lazy attitude of those instructors who should be bloody ashamed of themselves. Don't call yourself a teacher if you're going to just bob off the actual teaching part of the gig. Huh? How about we start there? Thank you, Michael. Very kind of you to say. Thank you, Little Pure Water. You have a nice afternoon. Do you always use the same drawing technique or switch depending on the task? Asks Effects Compass. I mostly use the same technique, although I will adjust the technique for the task at hand. But the general thought process and the general steps largely stay the same. And there's a very deliberate reason for that, which is I don't have to rely on happy accidents, right? If I've got a process that I know is repeatable, I can then adjust the process as I need to for the task at hand, right? So there's a very deliberate reason for using the same kind of, the same task or the same process over. If your process has versatility built into it, you should be able to, for the most part, do that. All right, we'll keep going here. This is a, you know, lot to kind of be mindful of. Pose like this. All right. Where are we at? 12 minutes. Just blocking in some of the hair here. Something. All right, let's get in some core shadow. Ah, Rick, come on now. Although that's fine, I guess. Why not? Just don't let it affect you too much. Avoid it. All right, core shadow. Cast shadow coming off here. One thing with this set I really like is the lighting. Nice. It's essentially one-directional lighting. You could say, well, I think there's another light source. There might be, but still. It's one light dominant, let's say. This makes our lives a lot easier. So am I the only one who found Frankenstein really disappointing? What a shame. What a missed opportunity. A beautiful movie. His stuff's always beautiful. But yeah, just came away feeling bleh. Really looking forward to it too. Speaking of art schools, etc., Doug says, I'm getting really excited. At least for a commercial space for myself and a partner are opening a multidisciplinary arts and performance space. We'll be hosting classes, etc. Fantastic, Doug. Congratulations. Oh, how exciting. Oh, that would be really cool. What, multidisciplinary arts. I look forward to hearing more about it. Congratulations. Brilliant. All right, quick blend here. And I'll just do a little bit of tidy up, and I think we're cool. Let's do this one. I was very disappointed, says James. It's my favourite novel. Yeah, speaking of which, the design on Frankenstein was so hit and miss. There were parts of him that I thought looked alright, but then there was things like the deltoids that I just could not get past. But yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Pity. But there were some gorgeous elements, but like that's not enough. Not from Del Toro, it's not enough. All this stuff's gorgeous. I expect that. And it was also half an hour. I'd love to chat when you have time. Anytime, Doug. If that's directed at me, I'd be very happy to chat. We're going to avoid all modern tech when possible. No AIR. All right. Good. Sounds like fun. All right, let's just a tiny bit of quite a bit of reflected light in certain areas where we could exploit that a little bit more than we have. And, okay. It's handy for me to just sometimes look in the monitor on the OBS and just gives me a sense of how it's reading on the screen. Yeah, all right. 20 minutes. Let's call it. No. Yeah, I could. This really needs. It needs a bit more TLC. I just don't. I know I'm not that satisfied with it, so I'm just going to call it, I think. Cool. All right, let's move on. Where are we at? We've got about 25 minutes. to include art, music, dance, aerial arts, printing, impossible darkroom facility, printing. That's cool. Well, it's all cool. Fantastic, dude. Please keep me informed. All right, let's move on. Next pose. All right. All right, what's happening with the music? Enough of that. Let me just take a second here. This one feels like a very Art Nouveau pose. Yeah, no kidding, James. Seriously. This is about as Art Nouveau as they get. But she's got a very Art Nouveau-y kind of sensibility about her. Look, you know I don't go out of my way to like push material on you guys. It's not in my nature. But I've got to say, I downloaded this full set for her today. It's just come out and I was very impressed with it. It's a very nice set. She's got a lot of great poses, and I like the fact that she's just got a very interesting physique to draw, for me at least. Not too athletic, just nice balance, you know? Okay, primer is reset. Pose like this really gives us a chance to kind of flex our rhythmical kind of skills. So we're coming off the torso here, right? Upper and lower torso, which kind of combine into a single idea, at least for right now. But look at the way that this leg, her left leg, continues the rhythm basically all the way down to here, right, where her foot is. So it's really useful, like especially when we're thinking about gesture and those types of things, to look at look at everything together. And that sounds like such an obvious statement. One thing, you know, something what a teacher said to me once, which I thought was interesting, because you just kind of like, you go into autopilot sometimes, but they were like, before you start drawing, just take a moment to actually observe, to really just take a moment to look at what's in front of you, and then to ask yourself, what is it that you want to say with this particular drawing? We did a drawing earlier where what we'll call the story was really all about the relationship between light and tone, and that kind of like painterly look. In a situation like this, you could make a strong argument for rhythm, and the relationships between these different rhythms is what the order of the day is asking for, you know? Anyway. I'm trying to work gesturally. Remember, now that we get our proportions right, don't wait. We can make adjustments at this point easily enough. The obliques in here. Michael asked, do you often use charcoal powder? You know, I use it a fair bit. That, like, I used to use it even more than I have been recently. I don't use it very often on the stream though. I for some reason. Here's the thing: when you're working with for me at least, when I'm working with charcoal powder, it can potentially bring a level of chaos to proceedings, which when you're doing a stream like this, you're not always kind of, you know, enthused at the idea of doing. You're trying to some degree work in a controlled environment, and charcoal powder takes that concept and forces it out the window. But you know, in saying that, it's a bit of fun. Don't get me wrong, I'm more than happy to fall on my ass live on stream. It's happened many a time. But yeah, I probably should use the charcoal powder more. I'm seeing address that isn't there. Yeah, you could. Well, it's the way that the knees come together. It's interesting, actually. You can think about when you're. You know, we talk about dividing and subdividing and that. I actually find it quite useful when you got two legs where the knees kind of come together at a single point almost. To think about the two legs as a single idea, and then you can subdivide, you know, or a hybrid version of something in between, is useful. There we are, 7 minutes. Did I say that we have is it one more pose after this? Let me see. Yeah, one more. Okay, then I just want to look at time. We've got 15 minutes. So we'll do about another 5 on this pose. And then we'll probably shift, okay? I'm not drawing out probably any more than I have here. I feel like it's enough. I want to focus on light and tone now. Excuse me. All right. Thomas asks, does it matter what kind of brush you use to apply the charcoal powder, or will any random brush do? Well, I would experiment with, a lot will depend on your paper. I use, this is a white sable, and the reason I use this is because it's only going to soften and blend. It's not going to like, you know, leave teeth marks of its own in the process, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's this is white sable, but I would experiment. You might find that for the paper that you're working on, or the type of stuff you're doing, that you actually want a bit more of a bite. Stiffer brush might be good. It's really, I think it's just try different things. Here's one thing. We're talking about the brush today, and we've used it just briefly. The other thing that I don't use enough on stream, which you guys should be aware of or have in your toolbox, is one of these blender sticks. Now, one of the things here, let me give you a close-up or something just real quickly. With these blender sticks, can you see, like, I've cut the edge off that one, but this side is rounded. This is just kind of like, you know, regular kind of cylinder, but this has a flat edge on it. It's very useful for mark making. You can get some really nice kind of angular blending, which you might have a hard time getting. You see the way this gives a bit of punch right there, but it's still subtle, right? Like, so I don't use it enough, especially on stream. But you can get some really nice effects because it's got a much harder edge to it than your finger does, right? So it gives a bit more bite to the proceedings. In my opinion, the results of charcoal powder are very expressive and sensitive, says Michael. Thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Well, when you bring in the charcoal powder, now you're starting to get into painting, right? It's kind of like a different sensibility almost somehow. Yeah, it's a bit of fun. I do believe it's really worth though. Like the charcoal powder is a lot of fun. It's very expressive, very easy to get nude with it, but it needs to be there to complement what are hopefully satisfactory drawing skills, and not to be used as a substitute for them, which I do see happen sometimes, where the flair of a piece of charcoal, wispy charcoal powder, is really hiding a multitude of bad ideas. If that makes sense. It's a personal opinion. Anyway, last pose. It's a doozy. Another very Art Nouveau type pose. This one. Even this pose, you could give it lots of time, but it's a fantastic pose. Anyway, we don't have lots of time. We have a bit of time. Here in the UK, it is 6:54 p.m. We are going to go to the top of the hour, and then we're going to call it. Don't burn that one. Okay. I need to find the right pencil for this last pose. I'll just use this one. Okay. So we have, it's about 6 minutes-ish. I'm going to try and be strict to that. Let's at least plan with that in mind. Okay. Yeah, for anyone who has the inclination, I would thoroughly recommend you go to Grafit's site and check out the preview of this full set. Some really lovely poses. So she's coming. Yeah, once again, this torso is kind of coming towards us. The beam of the rib cage going this way. And then she's got this, like, you can see where this turn of form is here. The oblique kind of sits in there. And then this foot, leg. Something like this. Oblique coming. Look at the lovely compression we get from tummy. Navel sitting about here, and we've got this lovely heart shape almost with the abdominal there. A lot of compression right where the rib cage. And aces, or the iliac crest kind of converge. That's right, yeah. Yes, see you next year. Or potentially over the Christmas break. But I don't know. Little part of me is debating if we do a little something between Christmas and the New Year. But I don't want to commit just yet. But the 6th we will plan on, at least. If failing that, time is once again and speed up here. Well, this is very much a gesture drawing. Oh, look at that rib. Depression right there, rib cage. And heading into the oblique. And now we talked about pushing and with a bit of exaggeration, right? Like, it's safe to say we've got a little bit of exaggeration going on. I am going to call that done. Bit of fun, little quick gesture to finish things off, huh? Why not? Guys and gals, we made it. We made it to the end. Thank you if you're still here. Thank you so much for sticking it out with me. Much appreciated. We will do this all again on the 6th. But in the meantime, have a fantastic holiday, break, Christmas, whatever it is that you celebrate. I hope you have a lovely time. And yeah, I'll see you all really, really soon. Let's see what's ahead of us. I think we've got some fun. Anyway, I'm gonna go before I start rambling again. Guys, thanks so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Happy Christmas, happy holidays, and I'll see you all very soon. All right, cheers. Take care. Bye.